Hello, everybody. Silent State, Steels Production, Fishadelic, Ein Nagatia, Steels Production, Drew, Louis Ledoux, 7177, Michael Soronado, Andy K, Cider, Moin, CS Tribal, Andy K, Gavin Locke, away bro, Sissy Miss, always can't pronounce that name, but how you doing, dude? Acoustic Skill Audio. How's everyone doing today? Nihilist 37. So, yeah, I've been thoroughly enjoying the VCV 2 for various reasons, because now we can load it up in the DAW. It kind of takes sound design to different lengths. You know, we can do things that maybe we're a little bit limited with traditional DAWs, and I just like the kind of like blank canvas approach to sound design. How are you doing, Ian Cassie, Mindlure, Martin Taylor, Michael Lopez, Mylogify? How's everyone doing? So, I'm wanting to, you know, in the last, one of the previous streams I was doing with VCV Rack, just excuse me if I do sound a little bit nasal. I've been feeling sick the last few days, but I'm getting better now. So if I am a little bit sniffly, then I do apologize. But anyway, in the previous stream I did, where I was trying to create like a full track inside VCV Rack. How you doing, Overdose? What's up, YouTube? So I tried to do like a full track within a single VCV Rack instance, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that we could, you know, split it up, have like multiple, you know, for example, like one VCV Rack instance just doing a kick, one just doing a bass, and that kind of thing. So I think in this example, 2 marbles. Yeah, bro. 6 randoms, dude. It's not a proper generative patch unless there's at least 6 randoms. So I think what I want to start doing is I want to make a patch that does kick and bass in one. And there's various reasons why I want to do this, but I think it could be cool to just kind of have everything. So we load one instrument, kick and bass is sorted. You know, kind of like how I've approached it with my traditional Eurorack system, where I've kind of got one voice. Well, not really, but you know, it's like one thing, one signal flow thing doing both the kick and the bass. So for those who are wondering, this patch that we started off with was for Scion running into Supercell, which is basically clouds on steroids. And then what I did is I just granularized it, so just like recorded a tiny little chunk of that audio, and then the rest is just being randomized throughout the different like granular sounds within Supercell. So I mean, if we bypass it, bypass doesn't seem to work. We could bypass in here. It doesn't seem to work. It seems like the bypass with the effects in VCV seems to be a little bit broken. But what I can do is actually just run the input. The input into the output. So we could hear that was just like a Foscion. So without the space setting, which is basically just a big reverb after the granular synth inside the thing, this is what it sounds like. Almost just like an engine. So this is going to be our atmosphere for today. I think I just turn my monitor volumes up a little bit. Yeah, this is going to be our atmosphere for today. There's various reasons why I like Supercell. Obviously, because each of the parameters, for example, in clouds, let me just pull up clouds. here in Clouds, you've got to flip between. In the real Clouds, you would click this little button in to change between the modes. And you can't control wet, dry, spread, feedback, and reverb all at once. Whereas with a supercell, you can, because each of them has their own little input. But not only that, is each of these inputs, you see here, to get the most out of Clouds, you actually have to run it through an attenuverter. Whereas here, each of these inputs has an attenuverter built in, but also the inputs and the outputs both have a VCA. So what that means is we could trigger this VCA with like an envelope and kind of create this gated pattern like on the atmosphere, just like straight within one module. Super cool. Let me just remove this one. And what I want to do is I'm just going to put in Rampage for now. And I'm going to create like I'm going to put it in a scope so you guys can see what I'm doing. Send this output. It's a weird thing. For some reason, I always start with the right-hand side when I'm doing like maths or Rampage or something like that. I always start with the right-hand side. I don't know why. Super weird. So let's trigger this and set it to cycle mode. So you'll see it's like generating like a saw wave. And then here we can send this output to the VCA input of this. We don't have to cycle this input. We could set it to just trigger. Why? It should be down. Do I have to go like this for it to actually trigger? Yeah, there we go. So anyway, like we could trigger that to create like a gated pattern just inside. Just a side question. Why do you think Clouds gets all the love and Elements doesn't get as much by a wide margin? Elements is a little bit more difficult to understand. Clouds is kind of just like run something in and anything sounds good. So it's one of those things where people kind of say, like, when you get into Eurorack, kind of get Clouds, because it's one of those things which will kind of make you fall in love with Eurorack. While Elements, I personally think it is a better module. It's much harder to get a good sound out of it because it's very abstract. So they're also very different. So Elements is like a physical modeling synth, where Clouds is a granular synth. Physical modeling in general doesn't really get much love compared to granular, but they're also different schools of sound design completely. Physical modeling generally you use to create acoustic textures, like or acoustic sounds that are kind of like inspired by the real world, whereas granular is the complete opposite. It's like you're taking sounds that maybe are inspired by the real world or something and like digitizing them and chopping them and doing all sorts of stuff like that. Most people who are getting into Eurorack and modular synths are guitar players, keyboard players, and that kind of thing, that are looking for effects to kind of granularize the instruments that they play in the real world. And I think that's probably why Clouds gets all the love that it does. Also, just that, like, I'm not saying Elements is not unique, because it is. When Clouds came out, nothing really did that. Do you know what I mean? It's a very unique take on synthesis. Whereas, I think just the whole physical modeling thing, there's not much... how can I say this? I don't know. I think it's just like it's for people that are getting into Eurorack. It's just more of a kind of effects unit, whereas Elements is kind of more of a kind of obscure synthesis unit. And for people who are synthesizing stuff with like physical modeling and that kind of thing, I think for them they appreciate Elements and stuff, but it's less of a thing, I think. Rare as heck. The soundscape is incredible. The only recent one is that Anime-Fi thing. I must check that. I don't even know that. Okay, so say for example we've got like a droning patch like this. No, not that. But we don't want it to drone the whole time, like while space is not being played. What we can do is we can set a VCA onto the output. RAD stereo VCA. That's very helpful. And then set the gate input from like the MIDI to trigger it, so that there has to actually be MIDI going to the channel for it to actually work. So let's add a MIDI to CV. And then let's set the gate output to both CVL and CVR. So now what happens is nothing's playing unless we actually press space. Okay. We'll actually, so this is the Phos-Sion channel. We'll actually have to generate MIDI on a separate channel to send that through to VCV. I'm just going to draw in one long note. Hey, Greedo Kenobi, how are you doing? Hey, Marcelo Garcia. If I'm missing any questions, then just at me. Like 7177 has done. It just makes it easier for me to see when it pops up on my screen. There we go. So, this is something interesting that we could potentially do with like a single channel sending multiple channels, a single like instance of VCV rack, but then several MIDI channels sending different trigger signals, for example, like for kick and for bass. So here in Cubase, if we set this channel to send to any, we can actually assign individual MIDI channels per note. I'm sure other DAWs can do this, but like here, for example, we add a note and you'll see by default it's channel 1. What we can do here is then add, for example, notes for the bass here, and then we'll send these to channel 2 by just shifting this up to channel 2. So now this note sends to channel 1 and these notes send to channel 2. So this is a nice way of being able to create like everything in a single MIDI clip, but still splitting the MIDI channels It's super helpful for creating these kind of multi-timbral patches in something like VCV. It's also helpful for stuff like Falcon and those kinds of things, which you can do these multi-layered patches where you just have like everything in a single, so you don't have to have like a channel and then a MIDI channel and then a MIDI channel and then a MIDI channel. It's kind of all in just a single clip. Let's test the theory though. Let's see if we can get this to work. So that in VCV, we'll have to set this to channel 1, and then I'm just going to add a scope here so we can see what's happening. And then we'll add another MIDI to CV, and then set that one to, not MIDI gate, delete, and we'll set this one to channel 2. So then let's just send the gates of these to the scope, and let's see what's happening here. Yeah, that looks like it's working. Yep, there we go. So kick, bass, 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 kick, bass, etc., etc. It's looking good so far. So we can actually put these MIDI things up here. And okay, let's think about things here. This ShapeMaster Pro, let me actually just stop here. This ShapeMaster Pro is the paid for version. The biggest differences is that between ShapeMaster Pro and ShapeMaster Junior is that this has the clock input. ShapeMaster Junior doesn't have the clock input. So you can get like kick bass patterns and stuff using ShapeMaster Junior. But the reason why I want to use Pro in this example is we can do side chaining and then clock the side chain. So we can create like super complex bass and kick patterns using just this one module to trigger the envelopes, the triggers, like everything within the patch, as well as being able to sidechain the actual patch. The cool thing about this as well is that it's got VCA inputs and outputs, not just modulations. So each of these lanes that you're kind of generating, like almost like LFO tool type of things, they're not just modulations, they act as actual VCAs as well. So we could potentially run audio through here and then gate it. So my theory is that I want to create a nice kick and bass pattern and then run, for example, the bass through like the VCA of the last channel and then just draw in like an LFO pattern, and then just draw in like a sidechain pattern and then clock it to 1/4, and it should technically do all of that stuff for us. So I think that's the plus side about having the Pro version, but you can do it with the Junior version. These kinds of like MSEG style triggers and that kind of thing. Yeah, guys, don't forget to smash the like button if you're enjoying the video. Okay, so let's see how we would go about creating. Let's start off with like the kick. I'm just going to put in a simple oscillator. So I actually want to do two. I want to show you the difference of if we use like a digital style and an analog style oscillator. And the what's the word? And the benefit of triggering the sync of these types of things. Oh my gosh, where's just the simple thing? Sometimes, yeah, my gosh, when you have too many modules loaded, I got to start making favorites. I think that's one of the bonuses of these, the new browser and stuff is, I haven't even started using the, anyway, so I want to show you guys the difference. I guess this has got a sync input, but I'm not going to use it just so I can show you like what these things do. So let's just say output. These are the two sine waves. Just zoom in a bunch here. And let's just see here. I wonder if we can sync this one at the gate input so that when it plays, so what's happening here is each time the gate is triggering this oscillator, the phase is re-triggering if you use the sync. I think the even VCO has that as well. Oh, it doesn't seem to. Or is it because... Oh, it does, I think. It's because this was the internal trigger mode, was like re-triggering the thing. No, it doesn't sync. Okay, well that's the reason why I think using like a digital oscillator, or at least an analog oscillator that's got the ability to sync properly for kicks, is beneficial, because each time that kick plays, that sine wave is going to be hopefully the exact same every time if we re-trigger the phase at the same point. I do remember trying in the past, and it didn't. Oh yes, look there. Sync not implemented. You see there? If you actually hover over, it says not implemented. I've never noticed that before. And I was like busy here saying like, oh, I've tried it and it never worked, but I never noticed that. So let's make our curve for our kick drum. We could use number 1 on the ShapeMaster Pro, and let's maybe just like speed up this clock a little bit, just so that we've got more space to work with this curve. I think we can actually, let's set this clock N over here to the clock input, so everything is synced. And then we can sync this to 1/4. Okay, perfect. So this should be the whole bar. Why is this not triggering now? Maybe it needs a run input. I'm so confused right now. Why is this not syncing correctly? I'm being stupid. If I actually remember correctly, the clock 48 ppqn. Okay, yeah, I was being stupid, and I think this by default sends 24. Yeah, thanks, Omri. Steve actually did tell me about that. He literally said like, "Oh, don't forget," and guess what? I forgot. So what we can do is we can actually send clock into this and then generate. So it would be BPM in here, EPQN 24 mode, and then times this by, would it be times 48, I guess? And then send this to this. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so this is synced, and it's giving us a 1/4 times. So that means that these grid lines should line up to the 16th. So that makes it like a little bit easier to do these kinds of things. So we could do like the pitch like this, and look at it like what it's doing on the scope. Okay, cool. Now let's send this out to the pitch of the kick. I want to send it to the FM input, and then we can still have the ability to tune to a root note. We're going to need an output and a mixer. Let's just do the simple VCA mix. We're not going to need stereo for this one. And let's say left, right. Turn the volume down so I don't blast something. Send this in here. Let's see what's happening. We're getting there. So I'm thinking we could potentially run the kick through ShapeMaster and use one of the channels as a VCA, but this mixer actually has got CV input. So we could just use this one as the VCA. I think that's just going to be easier. What I actually want to do is, let's say, for example, use the first 3 channels for kick and the first 4 channels for kick, and so 1 to 4 for kick and 5 to 8 for bass. It'll just be easier than trying to like figure out afterwards what's going on. So this trigger generate from here. Let's just jump to number 2 and set all of these settings to the same as what was on number 1. TG clock sync. Why is there swing on here? That's strange. And then this one we can use as like the VCA of the kick. So let's send this to the CV input of this mixer, and we can draw in our curve over here. Probably just going to want to turn it down a little bit, I think. Oh wait, there's an amount. So I think this is, yeah, you see, so this, you can modulate as well the amount of, or you can adjust the amount of the overall shape that goes to the output, which is pretty cool. It sounds like something's happening with my sample rate though, like there's something weird happening there. I'm not quite sure if it's maybe these channels as well. Or is that in the actual patch? It is, for some reason, it's like dropping down there. It's not playing the full tail. Must be something to do with this. There we go. Yes, we're getting there. Look at that. Beautiful. Same kick every time. Beautiful. Okay, that's enough tinkering for the kick. We can always come back here. What has happened now? Oh, this still triggers when there's no... Let's maybe just put this through here. Oh no, wait, that's not going to work. This should be... Which one is playing? This one. But then it does the thing. Strange. Hey, Uncle Bat. How you doing? I should have probably mentioned that they actually sent me the pro version, so I didn't actually pay for it. I should have probably mentioned that. Just to be honest with you guys and everything. But it slipped my mind. They did send it to me. After, like, I was using it in my previous stream, not the pro version. I was using the junior. And I was mentioning something about how I couldn't get the clock to work. And then the guy, Steve from MindMeld, actually messaged me and he was like, oh, you know what, the clock only works in the pro version. But check your account, you've got the pro version now. So I was like, wow, okay, that's so fucking awesome. Thank you guys. So we're going to use a similar concept for the bass with the wavetable VCO because of the fact that that one can sync nicely. What did I just add? Wrong one. That. So we can wavetable position this over to a saw wave. That. And okay, so what we can maybe do is start splitting it up onto different layers. So like here, for example, is our kick, and then here this will be our bass layer. So all things kick will go here on the top. Scope, so we can see. Maybe we should put in an independent VCA here so that this runs in here. This goes in there, then this goes in there. And then we can actually pipe just this output into the scope. Then we've got a nice clean like lane for just the kicks. Let's put this out of the way. We don't necessarily need that. And I wonder if this will fit up here. Not quite. Put that like that. Doing some housekeeping here now. Okay, cool. And then we've got space at the bottom here for our bass stuff. Let's send the gate into the sync input again. And voct. Okay, so here what we can do is replace this voct input with the pitch that's coming from the actual DAW. You'll see it's actually like much higher pitch now. So we can actually go in here and use a octave module so that we can tune the kick down however many octaves we need. That looks about right. And then we can actually detune the MIDI by in Cubase so far. I'm having a bit of trouble with the MIDI from sending MIDI from VCV rack into Cubase, but there's always a bit of MIDI problems, like timing issues when I'm doing stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's my computer, how I've set it up. Cubase has so many little settings that sometimes those things can go like unnoticed, you know what I mean? What is happening here at the end of this kick? What have I done now? Oh, there we go. That's weird. It just needed to restart. Gosh, what have I done now? Chirag, can you see that the phase of the bass has been reset since since you heard it, it's been phase reset since the beginning, dude. Look at the scope. I can't seem to get this clock sync to work on this thing. Maybe I'm just completely misunderstanding something. So I'm going to try to figure out what I'm doing wrong here. Let's turn clock sync off maybe. Matty, I can dude, chill, dude. Shame that lots of the modules won't work in VCV. Not sure if it's worth the money. Lol, $150 to have it as a VST. I can use Bridge, and why the fuck Instro modules are not in VCV too? So not all of the developers managed to release their updates on the day that VCV2 was released. It kind of came out of a little bit out of nowhere. And also people need to realize that companies like Instro and Erika as well, which Erika's modules were added today, just by the way. So Erika modules are now available. People are updating it, and they're adding companies are adding their modules to number 2. So it's happening. It just didn't happen on the day of release. And people also must realize that companies like Instro, their main focus is making hardware modules. Making free software for everyone to use is not their main focus. They don't have developers. It's just one guy that makes hardware modules, and he just happened to make stuff for VCV Rack. So his main focus is not going to be to code stuff that's going to work with VCV2. You know what I mean? If there are developers out here who do want to update the code, I'm sure it's available that you can go and find it on GitHub, or you can chat to him if you do want to help him with the development of it or whatever. But for the free stuff, it's coming. Do you know what I mean? Like every day when I log in, there's more stuff that gets added here to the updates and stuff. So it's definitely worth it. When last did you try Bridge? Because for the last 2 years, Bridge hasn't worked for me. But maybe it works for you. I don't know. The sync seems to be slightly off time here. I think it's got something to do with the fact that the gate of the kick turns off at a certain point. So maybe we can elongate the length of the note so that it's full. There we go. Hey Lucko, how you doing, dude? think my current CPU usage is at about 20%, and I'm on a 3rd gen i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. But keep in mind that I'm also streaming at 60 frames per second, so that does take a large chunk of the CPU. let's do some hi-hat stuff, like drum stuff in Playbeat 3. I think that's just going to be a little bit easier than just to get things going a bit quicker. What do you guys reckon? I've actually got a preset here. Glitch 1. Oopsie. Forest, done. Oh my god, I swear, every single time. Wait, it wasn't on the last stream. I think it was my Patreon stream where I did that same thing where I knocked my glass and like sent tea flying. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna be right back. I think the coolest thing about the fact that VCV is like nestable inside VST now is that we can render like freeze tracks. So in previous things, like if you want to write music with VCV rack, you had to have a whole rack with your entire song and everything is like complex routing and stuff. For me, I like modular for sound design and I like it for performance. But I think it's a little bit clunky when it comes to sequencing and arrangement of music. I think that's where DAWs have come so far in terms of just like basic voltage synthesis and that kind of thing. And the pro side now of having these things as a VST is we could just, for example, render chunks of audio out and then freeze the track and then it removes it from the CPU. Now we can write another part and then if we want to come back to the bass, we can just unfreeze it. You know what I mean? So I just want to render out a loop of this kick and bass, both the kind of like groovy part and the flat part, and then we can freeze it, and it's taking it out of the CPU usage. Do you know what I mean? So in Cubase, I don't freeze. I usually use this thing called disable track, which is just a bit easier because I render my stuff in small chunks, not like the entire audio track. Do you know what I mean? So here we've got like the kick and bass nicely resampled for us. Put like a tiny fade out on there. And then we've got the groovy one over here, which we can use later on in the track if we want. Let's just color this differently. There we go. So this track here, this is another cool thing about like the VCV as effects, VSTs, is I've created this kind of like thing with Supercell to create this like drone out of that 303 sound. But what if I want to layer the 303 sound back in and I want to create like effects and all sorts of things on it? What we can do is we can just like pipe it into a mixer within the kind of effects thing and create our own like multi-effects panel. Or like multi-effects thing within VCV. What is going to be the easiest way to do this? What stereo mixer options do we have? Maybe we can use the simple... where is it now? This one here. Oh gosh, where's a nice stereo mixer? Okay, you know what we're going to do? Just going to go like this. Mix left. Duplicate. Mix right. And then we'll just send another mixer into that. So we're just like creating our own mixes. And then let's say, for example, add a filter. Which one has a band pass? Would be the Steiner, that one. And let's add a distortion. This one is pretty cool, but also the Volt distortion is really good. And then what we can do is we can run this input. I guess we can just use this a mono. Oh no, wait, it'll go in here. And then let's run this through distortion. And then into the mixer. That's a bit too crazy for a delay, I think, though. So Dexter is a 4-operator FM synth. Kind of, I guess, inspired by DX7 style FM synthesis. Well, like operator as well in Ableton. Similar type of thing. Different layout, of course, but the kind of core focus of like how it generates the tones and stuff is very similar. So we could make some interesting FM stuff using this. Let's just tune it to the stuff that we're working in. And then here, I'm not sure if it has like, how can I say, like modulations already built in. We may have to... Okay, yeah, no, it seems like all of these route to number 1. So the level of this does control the amount of FN. Oh, that's nice. How we make a note on random in VCV is we would just send the gate into the trigger input of the generic random input and send the step out into whichever one we want to control. So here, let's, for example, control the FM frequency of the filter using the random. I don't know. I don't know if it's about Cubase just being less of a CPU hog than any other DAWs. I think it's mainly to do with the plugins. That kind of the plugins does affect the CPU more than the DAW itself, I think. But also, it's how you keep your project. Do you know what I mean? One thing that I guess it depends on the workflow, but with Ableton, something that I've noticed is that the entire system is kind of designed around doing things quickly and getting the job done quickly. And while that is a good thing, there are a lot of like shortcuts which kind of like slow things down in the long run. You know, I noticed like a lot of people when they're creating with Ableton, they like duplicate channels and all sorts of things and stack things up. Whereas it's a little bit harder to maybe do that kind of thing in DAWs. So you end up like bouncing audio and doing things like that, which in turn maybe don't affect the CPU as much, but it's all about workflow at the end of the day. I mean, you can do it either way, in whichever DAW you're using, you know. Hey, thanks, Sigma6. Thank you. I think here, I actually want to take off the VCA that's controlling the output here because we don't actually need it. We want to record a long chunk of that audio without that. I think Ableton does allow for bouncing, but I think it's just the way that workflow is there. People don't do it. Do you know what I mean? I often see just people working in MIDI, and then they open the project again, and then the thing doesn't work, so they duplicate the channel, and then more. So it's like stuff is stacking on top of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, I don't know. I guess it's also just because like I've been making music since when computers were like so useless that you had to basically work in audio. Do you know what I mean? So it is part of my workflow, I guess. Yeah, there are all sorts of forks and VCV, which is a VST, and there is a bridge and all that sorts of stuff, and everybody always talks about them. But have you guys do you have it working in your DAW with clocks sending and receiving and MIDI data actually working? Have you ever actually seen it working in a project in your DAW? Because trust me, bro, like even I'm since my first VCV rack videos that I made like 3 years ago on this channel, I've been inundated with people saying like, oh, I've tried the bridge and it doesn't work. I've tried VCV and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. And I've even tried it like hundreds of times, dude. And it just doesn't work. And that's the whole reason why Andrew or whatever, the guy behind VCV rack, decided to develop an actual VST. And then he put time aside to actually do that, and paying for the VCV Pro version basically pays for that time which was spent developing the VST version. Do you know what I mean? Because lots of people tried and lots of people failed. Simon Rigby, hey, notice you're using Restream. Is that to OBS? Have you noticed any issues recently with very occasional glitches? User for ages, no issues, but lately, eek. Who's not asking them? Cubase user as well. I haven't, but to be honest with you, I always stay a couple of versions back. So I'm always, like, whenever something pops up, say, hey, do you want to update to the latest version? I say, I don't. I give it like until the next version is out, then I update to the previous one. Or until the next one's like about to come up, then I update to the previous one. Just because like these things tend to happen. But also, which version of OBS are you using? Are you using actual OBS Studio? Or are you using Stream Elements /OBS or Streamlabs /OBS or one of the other bloatware versions? I would highly suggest just using OBS if that is the case. Otherwise, check your graphics card drivers. Maybe something happened there with an update. But yeah, I haven't really experienced many issues in a little while, but I've recently updated my graphics card and that did help quite a bit. I'm on 27.0.1, so it was like the first version of OBS 27. I'm on that one. I generally try avoid the like points and points and points because stuff happens in between the points. Do you know what I mean? hell is that reverb? Oh my god, I love it.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna be right back.
any stability issues with the VST version of VCV so far? Like a little bit of timing stuff with the MIDI sending out, but like as far as I know, like most in my setup, like I generally struggle with that kind of thing. It's probably somehow something to do with all the MIDI stuff going in and out of my computer. These notes here, it's being randomly, so like this oscillator has a FM input from the random modulation. So if I take this away, it'll all just be playing the root note, but there is no scale to it. We could quantize this, but I kind of like the chaotic nature of it. That kind of, it's a nice contrast. So like what I like to do is have parts which are very kind of chaotic and atonal, and those parts like build towards a part which maybe has like a main melody, which we use like maybe similar components. So what could be a cool idea is to have maybe like the atmospheric parts of the track to have this kind of like completely chaotic thing, and then maybe some parts later on we could use this to create like a main lead by just quantizing the modulation that's going into this. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a quantizer is. What I actually want to do is let's just render out a large chunk of this, just so that, you know, if I do break something, we've always got something we can fall back on. Render that. No, not render settings. Render in place. So what a quantizer does is it basically takes modulation signal and only allows certain voltages through. And when applied to the pitch, it's similar to like what in Vital, when you quantize the oscillator and only allow it to play, for example, like a C note or a G note, etc., etc. So here, what we could do is, let's just enable this MIDI again. Instead of to the FM, we can send this to the V arced like this. Turn all of these off, and then just turn on the G. So now it's only going to play Gs. So now we've turned that random pattern into like a Phrygian lead, and we can slowly now like morph from the one into the other, so it's like from chaos into something a bit more melodic. So it gives you that like nice contrast, and I think that's what helps particular things stand out a bit more, like, is to have these movements between the contrast. Do you know what I mean? Man, the patch is so easy. It's so easy. You can do this in any synth, dude. It's literally just a sine wave with the random pitch with a reverb on it. That's literally it. Like, we can do this in Vital, we can do it in Serum, we can do it in the DAW's built-in stuff. Like, you can do it in anything. It's such a simple patch. But I'm glad you like it and you've screenshotted it and now you can use it. Oh, with the quantizer, yeah. You can do that in Vital, actually. Vital has the quantizer as well. Pretty cool thing about Vital. This is a weird thing about using VCV as an effect. You've got to like remove the audio and then add it again for some reason. For it to actually work. Now it's not working. Okay, there we go. supercell is basically clouds on steroids, so it's like a granular resynthesizer with a built-in reverb. It's triggering my desire to smoke weed. I'm all out of weed. I'm so sorry, dude. Fuck, that's the worst. It needs some sort of like offbeat thing there, just to like get the rhythm going. Something that like emulates the rhythm of the open hat, but not quite an open hat, maybe like a closed hat or something. So we can just copy that and then just drag closed hat sample onto the channel. Nice and easy. What? What? That is unfortunate. I think we have just figured out something pretty unfortunate. That when you disable the track and you enable it again, the patch is gone. Oh my god, that is terrible. So we are busy losing all of the patches that we've made, but it's fine, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. There's only one way to learn these things, and that's by making these mistakes. No, man. Why this shit now? Let me just exit and get back in so I can... Oh my gosh. I don't think I saved it. Like, just as I saw that, like, crash happening, like, I hit save and the thing popped up and I hit save and it's like, it went through. But, like, just hope and pray, dudes. Hope and pray. Somewhere here. Okay, it's loading. It's loading. Let's just see, like, what happened here. Maybe it was something to do with that. Yeah, it's something. There's something. It seems to be like some sort of bug with VCV where it doesn't quite handle patches, presets the same way, and that's causing this weird issue when you disable, enable, and then try disable again. So I'm sure there is a way around that. That would be to like actually save the patches and stuff. Just think. No, I just want to exit and get back in quickly, just because. I just wanted to like emulate the issue again, just to figure out exactly what it was. Then I can maybe log it as a bug, and then maybe they can fix that. Okay, Cubase. The rat eating all the cables. Gremlins, dude. It's gremlins eating the cables. Yeah, that particular channel, I think, is just bugged. Maybe it's got something to do with one of the modules that was on there. Lol, Rack 2 still glitchy. Dude, name one piece of software that's not glitchy. Come on, dude. Come on. Lol, Ableton 11 still glitchy. Lol, Cubase 11 still glitchy. Lol, everything still glitchy, dude. Windows glitchy. Mac OS X glitchy. Everything, dude. if you use it as much as like we use stuff, you're bound to find glitches in it. Do you know what I mean? Oh, for heaven's sake. What have I done? Now the project's not even... Oh, why is that open? Cancel. No, let's see. It's not playing. Something is broken. Let me open. There was like a backup, like just before. Just before the glitch happened, there was a backup. That's so weird. Like the play is not working. Cubase. Oh my gosh. Let me just get like exit Cubase completely. So the problem, yeah, Reason was pretty glitch free before. Yeah, but that's before they had the ability to add VSTs and stuff. So if stuff is in-house, like if, for example, like Reason, for example, like before they had VSTs, like only stuff that Reason developed, you could load up as an instrument. So there was so few chance of bugs getting through because the people that were developing the stuff for Reason was Reason people. Now, because of the fact that VST and plugins and all of that, the way that that kind of stuff works is that just there's like hundreds of thousands of people developing different things. Even with VCV now with the modules and stuff, so many people developing different things, and the way that they develop things, just like stuff just like doesn't line up, and then gremlins. That's like the most technical explanation of how programming works. Stuff doesn't line up. Okay, let's try this backup. Like 5 minutes before the crash, apparently. Oh, there we go. You see, this has become the problem, like with a lot of software, not specifically with VCV, because it's kind of like an open platform, so it's fine. The most of the platform is free. It's only the VST thing, so it's not like a commercial product, so to speak. So it's fine when stuff kind of like bugs out, in my opinion. But you get like big companies like that will release stuff and use users as the beta testers, and that's fucked up. You know what I mean? That's fucked up. That's like the gaming industry nowadays. Like they release a game, and within minutes it's patched and it's patched and it's patched, and then the whole first month of the release of the game is just patches and patches and patches because the users are the beta testers. You may get your money refunded, but not your time. Dude, let me blow your mind real quick. Time is basically just money. Like, we spend our time to make money, which we then use to like buy a holiday and get our time back, or like buy a thing that's going to give us a good time or whatever. So like everything just revolves around time, you know? So these companies are actually, they're not wasting money, but like they are, because you could potentially be using somebody else's software to finish your thing quicker and then do your job or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? I mean, in this case, nobody's using VCV Rack for jobs. We're all just making bleeps and bloops. Do you know what I mean? But like, that's why it's like, the way I see VCV Rack is a non-commercial product. It's the VST version, which is just like the add-on, which is like a paid-for thing. And the bugs that I'm experiencing, I'm pretty sure are going to be in whichever. So like for me, when I open VCV outside of the DAW, I always have weird sample rate issues and all sorts of things like that. And I don't care because it's a free thing, you know. If I had to like have bought like Rift, for example, is like an expensive plugin, and if I'd bought that and it wasn't working, then yes, I'd be pretty pissed off. But it works; it's perfect and doesn't cause any issues. So, you know what I mean? So there's that kind of scale of like value, you know, how much value something has and how much it's going to like put your time off, and then how much like of a professional product it is. And if it were, then maybe a free product is not the ideal solution. I think like, for example, what Mateo is saying, his day job works in Nuendo. I'm not sure what you guys know what Nuendo is. It's basically like the more professional version of Cubase. And as far as I've heard, it's also like super like stable, but it's a lot more expensive. And so there's that whole thing. Like, do you need something that's going to be super stable and work 100% of the time? And does your like income like rely on it? Then maybe invest on something like that. Do you know what I mean? So. I mean, let's not even mention. Okay, I'm going to mention it. The Virus TI. Do you know what I mean? Like one of the most expensive synths of all time. Over a decade or whatever after it was released, like it still doesn't work, and the company has given up on it. So, like, do you know what I mean? It's not always about like just buy the most expensive thing to invest in something that's going to work. But yeah, there's always two sides to every coin. I think I've fixed the sound from Cubase thing. Maybe there's a bit of stream delay. Does an officially released track made only with VCV or Eurorack exist? Absolutely, dude. Lots with Eurorack. I forget the artist's name. Sebastian Lager. He makes like, I guess, progressive house music or tech house. He's recently switched over to Eurorack, and most of his latest releases are like 100% Eurorack. I think maybe like mixed on the computer. But I know that he uses most of the Eurorack stuff for that, and he's like touring with it as well. Lots of like ambient artists record like straight up Eurorack stuff. I'm not sure about VCV. I'm sure there are quite a lot. But Eurorack, absolutely, like so many. I'm going to be releasing Eurorack music soon. Just waiting for my balanced output. Okay, let's see. I think next I'm gonna maybe make like more of a traditional like saw wavy type of lead to start bringing in more like of an energetic kind of lead, something with more of a, I wouldn't say melody, but more of a like a progression going on. I think that could be cool. So I'm just gonna copy this over. I want to kind of like do something with interesting use of like delays and distortions. I think we could create something really cool, like almost like a custom filter using a couple of different things that we wouldn't usually use as like filters to kind of like create movement in the sound. I think I'm going to leave this instance of VCV open just because I don't want like that stuff to crash and all that. But there is this one instance here on effects which I can remove. There's nothing actually happening here. Would free up a little bit of space. Why does that not play anything? Strange. Could even just use a simple even VCO. Let's just see. The audio is actually working. Maybe that's why. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. So MIDI to CV. Let's actually jump into this one. I want to save this as like my FM synth. Save as. FM bandpass filter 1. Let's see, VOCT into the VOCT. And then let's create an envelope. Most of the stuff I've used today is free except for the ShapeMaster Pro. But that's not being used right now. Ooh, how's that delay, hey? We're basically creating like a unison using the delay because it's an ever so slight detune of the time. Okay, let's maybe write in a progression here. Hey, I like that a lot. I like that. That is very nice. So like we've got like a macro controller that slightly detunes the time of that delay, which is being sent into the distortion. And the interesting thing about this delay is it's not being used as a delay because the VCA is gating it afterwards. So you're not hearing the feedback tail of the delay. It's only being used to create like a tone. So that's kind of what creates that almost unison style effect from just a single oscillator. Just need to know how to rotate the knob. It's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more than that. And it drones. That's cool. The kick was made in VCV rack. I made it at the beginning of the stream, Mr. Morai. Real Alex, I don't like the bass, no hate. The best bass is from Vinny Vici. I've done a tutorial on that, if you want to check it out. What's up, Thomas? How you doing? Bought VCV Pro the other day, thinking of selling all my modular. Hey man, if there were only an ornaments and crime in VCV rack. Just kidding. It would be a bit silly to have it there because like all the stuff is available outside of it in VCV. How cool is this when it drones? It does this like... Beautiful. Maybe it's the sample rate settings, dude. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to call it for today. It's been awesome. Have you tried the simpler module in VCV? No, I haven't. Asti Fassi, how are you doing? Please tell me tutorial me a website where I can configure a modular synth. Check out a website called modulargrid.com. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's where I'm going to call it. I think this still needs a bit of an arrangement. I might just replace like the kick and bass, just to get a little bit more snappier. Like that can't go back in. Is the patch? Yeah, that's okay. These things happen. These things happen in the creative process. Tell me a website where I can configure a modular synth. Check out modulargrid.com. You can get all sorts of great information there. Anyway, I'm going to let this play through a few times for those who want to, or maybe just once, for those who want to stick around and hear the end result. It's been awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. Cheers.